What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 18 of Some Interesting Stuff. Hold it, before I get into the meat of this video, I want to make a little announcement. A lot of you guys are watching my videos, but you're not subscribing. I'd really appreciate it if you lot subscribe. Again, it's been a very slow week in terms of things that I've been linked to and things that I found interesting, and so, you know, just... But seriously, I've only got a couple things to talk about, so yeah, we should get straight into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the UFC event that is happening tonight and my predictions for the fights. So, if you didn't know, tonight is actually UFC 159. And the main fight on the card is actually between the two coaches of this season of The Ultimate Fighter. And those two fighters would be Jon Jones and Chael Sonnen. In general, the card looks pretty good, and I'll give my opinion on what I think is going to happen in each of the main card fights, or at least the fights I'm interested in. So the first fight that kind of piqued my interest is between Phil Davis and Vinny Magalhaes. Mayonnaise. Personally, I think Phil Davis has a big chance of winning this match because he is obviously very young, very hungry, he's only got one loss and he's a brilliant fighter. Vinny is obviously a very competitive and very good fighter as well. However, I do think Phil Davis is going to come out with a lot of aggression and take Vinny by surprise. Next, we have Roy Nelson versus Cheick Kongo. If you don't know, Roy Nelson is easily identifiable by his huge belly, also known as Big Country. He's a massive fan favourite and always gets the crowd going. He's a lot of fun to watch. Cheick Kongo is a massive French black guy. Okay, but in all seriousness, they're both two very good fighters. Similarly, they both have kind of checkered records. They have recorded great wins, but also at the same time surprising losses. For me, this is kind of a coin flip. I wouldn't be surprised if Roy Nelson got in a crazy knockout blow and took out Kongo, because Kongo is kind of susceptible to that sort of thing, as we've seen in recent fights. There is a clip that went viral from one of Cheick Kongo's last fights where he actually kind of got semi-knocked out, recovered, and then knocked the other guy out. So check that out if you haven't seen it. And yeah, I guess that's the best way I can put it. A coin flip. Either of them can win it, and it's going to be an interesting fight. The next fight before Jones and Sonnen is actually Bisping versus Belcher. If I'm honest, not really interested in this fight too much. This is where all the haters come in and tell me that I should be supporting Bisping because he's British, blah blah blah. And to be honest, I don't really care. Moving on. Now we have the main fight of the card, which is, as I've said many times now, Sonnen versus Jones. I am a huge fan of Jon Jones, but I am very impartial when it comes to judging fights and talking about the chances that people have of winning fights. And still, being completely impartial, I do think that Jones is going to absolutely dominate Sonnen. Jones is such a dominant fighter. Dominating. You know he's dominant. Don't get me wrong, Sonnen is also a brilliant fighter and he has a very, very good track record against some of the best fighters in the world. Sonnen has a lot of things going for him. He's a decent striker, you know, he can stand up, but obviously his main thing is his wrestling. Unfortunately for him, Jon Jones, I think, is one of the least taken down people in the UFC. Not to mention, he is also just a very difficult fighter to get any sort of hold over. He's very mentally strong and he doesn't get phased very easily. That's why we've seen Sonnen kind of pull back his kind of trash talking that he's known for, at least that's my opinion. Jones is the better striker here, undoubtedly, and he will cut Sonnen up if they kind of get into those sorts of exchanges. And yeah, in general, I think that's the way the fight's going to pan out. It might go all the way if Jones doesn't really capitalise on his striking. However, I do think there's a high chance that he will KO or TKO Sonnen. We'll see. The second thing that I want to talk about. This is actually just like a small article that I read on Kotaku about a upcoming game that's got like a lot of hype behind it, but is apparently running into development problems. That is Thief 4. If you don't know, Thief is a much appreciated, much loved game series from back in the day, and there hasn't been a Thief title for a long time. And for the past 4 years, Thief 4 has been in development. That should be ringing your alarm bells already. And that's because if you see it in the context of the other games that the studio behind Thief 4 have made, for instance Deus Ex Human Revolution, none of their games have had such long and kind of tedious development cycles. Also, the game has had a very weak showing, a weak presence at kind of consumer events. At the recent GDC, the game couldn't actually be played and you could only watch the developer play it. And that's always quite worrying because you wonder how much the person playing the game is actually doing, how much is scripted and how much is just a game demo for the public to see. Like, how much of that has just been scripted for the audience watching that to make it look good? Does it actually play like that? We don't know. Apparently there's also been a high staff turnover within the development team. And obviously that's very worrying because it's like, is the work going to get finished? Is the work being done properly at all? I don't know. And finally, some documents were released, if I remember correctly, that show the studio have not been making that much money. You know, that wasn't a very mathematical amount, scientific thing I just said, but read the article, you'll get what I mean. Kind of winging it here, this is how we do it. But yeah, that is about it for this week. My main thing I want to talk about was the UFC, because I'm going to get this out actually on the Saturday before the UFC, see if I can get some people commenting on it, little discussion going, a little bit of love, a little bit of hate, a little bit of debate. Let's walk to the tape. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you've never been into the UFC or MMA, be aware there's a big, exciting event on today. Is my hair funny right now? I feel like it's funny. Number 2, C4, keep an eye out for it. You never know, it might be disappearing very soon off the radar completely. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna put a bonus video in the information box below. It's just this kind of like huge Viking looking guy doing all these kind of flips and shit, and it's just kind of funny and interesting. Watch it, something like that. So please like this video, please comment, please subscribe. Sharing always helps. That's about it. Peace.